All right. Welcome to the Monday Night Hammer presented by For Fantasy Sake QC, also presented by the Mobile Party Experience. For Fantasy Sake QC, the one and only source for fantasy football knowledge in the Quad Cities. I'm joined by Michael Socoli. You can find him on Twitter at Michael underscore Socoli. And of course, my name is Nick at run underscore the underscore Sims on Twitter. And we're coming off a weekend actually, where I'm no longer on the market. I actually got engaged this weekend, so pretty excited.
The
I
biggest
know,
winner of the weekend, Nick Roll.
yeah, yeah, I got crushed everywhere else, but but I actually had booked a win in the real life streets. So
Share the
yeah,
story.
she
Share
said
the
yes.
story.
Yeah, so I run all these numbers and I spend all this time like being so detail oriented with like spreadsheets and stuff. But when it comes to some of the real life common sense stuff, I might fall short every now and again. This was a case where I didn't know what to do with the ring, so I put it in my backpack and kind of basically carried it around with me everywhere because I live in a smaller apartment with my now fiance, and there's just not a whole lot of places to hide things. So I thought about a couple different spots. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be a moving target. I'm going to be hard to keep a hold of because the ring will be everywhere. And not a great idea. So for those of you younger bachelors out there listening to this, that was not a good idea because we were at another wedding she was in. She needed some Advil from she know I had some in my backpack,
No.
and she saw it about 2 weeks ago. So yeah, kind of buried the lead there, but she really
Nick.
she really had to pretend like she didn't know what was coming for 2 weeks. But it ended up being a surprise because I had a bunch of our friends meet us up there. But yeah, she as soon as she said yes, and we kind of started talking about, she said, "I have a confession to make. I found the ring 2 weeks ago," and she found it twice actually because then I was like, I need to stop carrying this thing around, and then she goes looking for it and she tries it on and all this stuff. So pretty funny, pretty cool story.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, it was just great to be there with family and friends and stuff. So
all
good
that
for me.
matters is the answer, man.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Now
Good
you
times,
got a good
but
story out of it. You got a good story.
yeah, good times. So I didn't watch a whole lot of the games, so I'm going to be leaning on the spreadsheets even more than I normally do, and also tapping you in whenever we need a film breakdown. But yeah, super excited. Let's hop right into it. We got unfortunately lots of injuries, some really important pieces in fantasy. Kareem Hunt, which was just due for a massive workload in the next few weeks with Nick Chubb out, came in banged up himself, and he actually didn't last this whole game. He's going to miss a few weeks with a calf injury. Who's the guy to pick up there? Is it Ernest Johnson or Demetric Felton? Who's gonna slot in?
So, for everyone listening that goes, who the hell did he just say? Dearness Johnson is the incumbent. He was on this roster last year as the third string. He's been primarily a special teamer, just a gunner. Nothing special. But Dearness Johnson will shoulder the load. He will get the carries, and this is still going to be a run-first team. This team is not going to switch up its identity just because its top two guys are down. He's going to get the rock, but in full PPR leagues, Demetric Felton is a playable option. I have him in my lineup right now, not by choice, but by a multitude of bye weeks and injuries. Demetric Felton is a start for me. And it's week 7. There are a lot of teams on bye this week. Off the top of my head, I think it's like 8. It's something crazy like that.
Yeah. So this is if I'm going to tilt a little bit for the listeners here. If I wasn't like 1-6 because I have AJ Brown and Calvin Ridley, like these are the weeks where like zero RB crushes because you have that extra receiver or even two to fill in, and your team is not really. And then plus, if you played the running back injuries the right way so far, you probably have a couple serviceable options. That unfortunately has not been the case so far. So I'm in trouble here, and we're gonna right the ship though. We're gonna right the ship. AJ Brown's gonna score 30 points, and we're gonna be fine. But we're not here to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna play Felton. If I had to pick one in a full PPR league only, I will play Felton. With the mentality of, I think, and we could get into it a little bit, but OBJ or we're not going to get into it because he came back on the field, but OBJ dealt with some nagging injuries. If Jarvis comes off the IR, that would matter to me for Felton.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of opportunity for
Yeah.
receptions there. He's an explosive player.
He hasn't logged really any snaps at running back, is the thing.
It's receiver. It's slot
Yeah.
receiver and out of the backfield. So I think they're going to find
Yeah.
creative
So
ways to use him.
You definitely think that he moves into the backfield a little bit more. I think I'm picturing like the Ernest Johnson early down work, goal line, and Felton's in on like 2-minute drill. Kind of basically they'll turn into James Conner and Chase Edmonds, but much less talented.
Exactly. That's exactly how I view it. And I think he'll catch 5 balls, and it's up to him to do something with that. And I think he'll get a 5 to 6 carries, max.
Okay.
He's not a huge guy. He's a little bit stout, but
I mean, you got to lean into this. This is ugly. You got.
It's a tough matchup too. Denver's not a soft defense. That's why I lean on. Maybe I want the guy with pass catching chops. Denver can score as well, but listen. It's a tough week. People are going to be scratched. They need to play someone. It's
interesting because typically we would have had like some indication of like what's going to happen there, but it's just such a weird situation where like it was all Chubb, all Hunt, and then their injuries like kind of came a little bit later than you normally hear about injuries. Like we didn't really hear about it until they started practicing
Friday.
again. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, like this all happened so fast, and like we have no really prior usage in this context to help us. So getting this right is going to kind of come down to a little bit of luck.
Yeah. And now they play on Thursday. It's a short week.
Yeah.
Nick Chubb they didn't practice on Monday. Teams don't practice on Monday, but they put out an estimated injury report for those Thursday teams. And Nick Chubb was an estimated non-participant. We already know Kareem Hunt's most likely an IR candidate. So I'm expecting Nick Chubb to miss, have them rest him with an extra longer week after this Thursday game. You could play both of them in a pinch, which a lot of people are going to be in. I will play Felton in full PPR leagues.
Okay. I didn't really get that sense, but you kind of talked me into it. So we spent a lot of time on that one because that's probably the most important injury right now.
There'll be waiver wire guys. That's why I spent the time.
Gibson, we'll just touch on him quickly. Go get McKissick tonight. They're waiting on some MRI results. Like he's really banged up. And I'm a big Gibson guy. I'd rather have Gibson in the second than a running back in the first, unless it's Derrick Henry now. You got to update your priors. But
I'm gonna
go get McKissick.
I'm gonna pose the question here: is McKissick the guy to get?
Ooh,
because now the guy I'm looking at here is Jared Patterson out of Buffalo, who is a really talented player who just dropped in drafts because he's very small. Staying at, I believe, 5'7", but
the first machine learning algorithm I ran for rookies to try to predict how many points they're going to score. Like there's like a problem with that because they don't have NFL data in college. It's like completely different environment. Like, but anyway, Jarrett Patterson like came out as the best prospect in terms of what he did in college versus what that usually translates to in the NFL. The one caveat being he didn't have the draft capital. If he had the draft capital, like he would probably break all of the models for the best prospect of all time. But that's not how this works. There's a reason he probably slid. But I'm with you. I think you can take a shot on getting Jarrett Patterson on the waiver wire. But if you are like, now's the time as a contender, even in Dynasty, if you need that extra little depth piece, like J.D. McKissick is not going to cost you a ton right now, and he's going to be very solid for the rest of the year.
Yep, he saw 10 targets last week, caught 8 of them. That's terrific volume. Jared Patterson's worth a pickup if you're really tight at running back. I think you could play him. I think he's going to see early down work. I think he's going to get the goal line touches because J.D. McKissick is just as slight, and I think Jared Patterson runs with a little bit more gusto. But McKissick is still the start. Jared Patterson's
not dead yet, but I feel like we're going to get news tomorrow that he might need to take
his body is destroyed. His body's destroyed.
Yeah.
He desperately needs a bye or something.
Because it kind of seems like it's these things where like he was favoring the turf toe, and then since he's favoring the turf toe, that puts extra pressure on other parts of the body that's not used to having that pressure. And you kind of see this. And normally, like the remedy, it's not a forever thing, right? The remedy is like some rest. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and he hasn't looked himself either. Like
Yeah.
he hasn't been right, and the Washington offense hasn't been.
Yeah. So again, neither of us have medical degrees, but
Oh no! Oh
sometimes,
no!
sometimes we like to think we do. Let's just touch on who's going to be okay and we need to worry about just to get through this pretty quickly because we got some cool stuff to talk about in terms of fantasy scoring so far. Kadarius Toney and Baker Mayfield look on the wrong side of what I would call questionable right now, kind of trending, and you might not see them for a week or two. Tyreek Hill should be fine. Paris Campbell, just this guy can't catch a break. Looking like a long-term foot injury. Wright did not sound optimistic at all. Season ending is in the range of outcomes here with that one, so that's unfortunate. Dak, his calf, he's going into a bye week. He should be fine coming out of the bye. No need to worry about that. And then I think another really important waiver news is Rashad Penny is going to get an opportunity with Alex Collins banged up early this week. So Penny seems to be fully healthy, or as healthy as Rashad Penny can be, or has been in a very long time. So hopefully he can hold up and maybe get, I don't even like 12 to 15 carries. I think he's in line for if Collins sits.
I'm rooting for that. Some quick caveats I'll throw in there. Hill was in and out of that game. He dealt with a quad injury leading into that game. That's something to monitor. It's not something I'm going to shrug off. Baker, this was a week 4 injury that he suffered, a labral tear, tried to play through it and re-aggravated last week. So that's something that I'm seriously going to be worried about, that this is, their franchise guy. They might try to shut him down for a little bit. But they have a lot of guys injured too. So he might try to tough this one out. But we'll see. Either way, he's not him. He's probably not going to be himself. He's in a sling. But I think you nailed the rest of them, definitely. Rashad Penny's a very interesting name right now.
Yeah, thanks. Added in some helpful context there for sure. I really, I'm like so optimistic with injuries. So sometimes like Tyreek Hill is definitely, you got to monitor that for sure.
You do.
But I mean, at this point, you're still going to play him with confidence.
If he's active, you play Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, exactly.
No question.
We're not seeing him be limited. It's when he's on the field, he's running routes and getting the ball. Until that changes, we'll let you know. All right, let's dive into what I did here is I just basically pulled up the fantasy scoring. You can get this fantasy data at a website called fantasydata.com for free. It's sometimes helpful just to kind of look at who are the top 12, who are the QB ones, running back ones, wide receiver ones, and why. This helps us understand who to be drafting next year or what stats matter. This helps us understand like who's fluky and maybe identify some sell high targets or even some buy low targets. So you can definitely kind of play the market a little bit with some of these guys because the top 12 right now are producing at a rate a little bit higher than we're used to seeing. So we could see fantasy QB scoring actually come down a little bit. Just to zoom out, everybody in the top 12, aside from a few of the rushing QBs, is outproducing their career average touchdown percentage. So I'll highlight that in some of these by at least 1%, which that's usually a pretty big signal that regression is coming. But the NFL is changing, so an argument can be made that the volume's there to sustain it. But yeah, let's dig in a little bit. So I guess I'll kick it to you first. Out of the top 12 here, Mike, who surprises you the most?
Surprises me?
Yeah.
Sam Darnold. I mean, I think that was the easy one. We said top 12, right? I want to quickly for our viewers who are tuning in live, I'm quickly going to share the screen. I just pulled it up and get a tab going. 1 second. Here we go. Right? You can see that?
Yep, I got you now. Thanks for pulling that up. I meant to do that.
Yes. All good.
All right. A rare mistake. We were on a roll there for a while.
Rare mistake. Not at all. Not a mistake at all. There are no mistakes. But what matters?
Just happy accidents.
Yes, exactly. So it's got to be Sam Darnold. I mean, listen, Sam Darnold, I've been championing that man for a very long time. But even I was starting to lose a little bit of faith change of scenery, traded pretty much, you know, just thrown out like garbage out of New York, and he's found his way into the top 11. And the craziest thing is how he's done it. He hasn't done it through the air. He's thrown 7 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. You can see it on this list. It's the lowest by a good margin, with the exception of Hurts. How's he getting done? Is a ridiculous 5 rushing touchdowns. If I told you before this season that he would have the same amount of rushing touchdowns as Jalen Hurts and 3 more than Lamar Jackson, you would have whopped me on the head. It's insane.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because Christian McCaffrey's been a bit injured. Maybe it's the scheme. But scoring rushing touchdowns is saving Sam Darnold. He's a streaming option. He still hasn't played as well as we want him to.
The last 2 weeks have been bad. Have been bad. Yeah. He is a sell high candidate. If anybody is kind of still like a believer, his touchdown percentage is below league average, 3.2%. League average is right around 4.6%.
Yep.
So he's not like due for touchdown regression. He should see his touchdown percentage actually increase a little bit. But he also hasn't looked league average the last 2 weeks. So I'm a little bit worried about him. The rushing touchdowns, maybe it's a part of the scheme moving forward. But out of these 12, I'm with you. I think he's the most likely to not finish the season in the top 12.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to surprise anybody. But someone you might be able to get a little bit more than you will for him today than you would in about 3 weeks is all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's all on point. The Robbie Anderson has not been the focal point that we want him to be. It's just DJ Moore there, and without Christian McCaffrey, Sam Darnold has really struggled. Like you said, the last 2 weeks have been bad. He hasn't had McCaffrey for either of those, and McCaffrey's not coming back for another few weeks. So maybe we see Sam Darnold as a sell high right now and then a buy low later in the season. But right now,
if you really want to mix it up, there are some leagues that, I'm in a dynasty league that trading has been very active, and you can pull something like that off in a league like that.
Those are the fun ones.
Yeah, and one thing that I guess shouldn't have surprised me, but definitely did, is just like the rhetoric behind like Patrick Mahomes right now is that he's probably not having his best year, but he is still like just head and shoulders above everybody else. Even on like less volume, he's just more efficient, and they're passing the ball a lot more. He's top 5 in attempts, which again, that's the thing that is the best way to predict fantasy points is, are you on the field for 100% of the team snaps, and are you throwing the ball a lot? So basically touchdown percentage, all these other stats I talk about, if you're throwing the ball more, you have more of a chance to score touchdowns, more of a chance to rack up yards for your fantasy team. So he's up there with them. His touchdown percentage is 7.4%. I don't think that comes down a whole lot. Like another percent is 6.8% is his career average. So he's just a freak. Like I said, league average is 4.6%. So what do you think about Mahomes? Is there's some fluky kind of stuff going on in the games that might be the reason why they aren't winning as much, which is might lead to us kind of underestimating what Patrick Mahomes is doing, but he's still QB1 overall in fantasy.
I think Patrick Mahomes is a good quarterback. I'm not sure if that's a controversial take nowadays, because I was arguing with my roommates the other day that Patrick Mahomes has still been a top 5 quarterback this season. And he has been. He's throwing some weird interceptions that he has not thrown before, but he's also throwing interceptions that are not his fault. A lot of them are drop passes, they're tipped over the line, they're fluky stuff. And the really interesting thing about Patrick Mahomes that we don't talk about enough, I mean, look at this right here. Look at those rushing numbers. He's 5th in rushing yards. That's just among quarterbacks. That's 184 rushing yards is not a bad number at this point in the season. That's pretty dang good. So if he's gonna lead the league in touchdowns every year, if he's gonna be top 5 in that selection because of just how good he is, they're gonna put the ball in his hands no matter who else is on that roster. Man, imagine if he had a secondary weapon. Imagine that. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes could be even better than what we see right now.
Yeah, I don't think that he's going to start like really like turning it on in fantasy where he's scoring 40 a game. He's had stretches where he's done that, but they're going to see more wins. And I think the rhetoric on him is going to change a little bit. I guess like if you, I guess the way to take action on that is to bet him to be MVP. But I think too much time has passed where that ship has sailed. We can talk MVP numbers later, but Yeah, moving on to Brady. I mean, I love rooting against him, but it's hard to here. He he his age could suddenly take over at any point at 43, but there's no sign of that. Team is second in total air yards, just chucking it downfield, but
Yep.
also attempting almost a full game's worth of passes more than the second quarterback. He has 20 something more pass attempts than the next highest guy, which I believe is Herbert. Right. Yeah. So 21. That's almost a full game for some people. That's a Kirk Cousins game. So he's getting an extra Kirk Cousins game of volume on top of everybody else. Right. And so I guess those are the bull cases. The bear case on Brady is that at 6.36 touchdown percentage, this is touchdowns divided by attempts. So how often are you throwing the ball into the end zone and completing the pass? And for every 6.3% of Brady's passes, he's hitting that mark, and his career number is 5.5. So he's overperforming. But again, that team environment, he has all these weapons, more so than he ever has in a career. He might sustain 6.36%, no problem. Are you seeing any kind of slowdown in Brady when you watch the games?
None more than I saw last year. I mean, this is the Bruce Arians offense. It's throw the ball, and then when you think about running it, you're going to throw it. Even Leonard Fournette's getting into the action, catching a bunch of passes. So Tom Brady's fine. His arm might fall off after the season. I couldn't imagine it not, but
It's got to be
also Tom
coming.
Brady. It's
Yeah.
no, I've given up. But the bottom line is that he's going to be fine this season. He's going to throw for around 5,000 yards. Like
Yeah.
it's going to happen. He's going to throw
Yeah.
over 40
And
touchdowns.
yards are something that correlates obviously really high with touchdowns. So
Yeah,
he is,
and he is yeah.
he's throwing for a ton of yards, and that percentage is probably more in line with his career numbers. Kyler Murray is again kind of overperforming his normal career averages in passing, but very much in line with his normal career numbers in rushing the ball, which we were a little bit worried maybe that they would try to protect him a little bit and not have him run as much, but he's still such a weapon for them, especially in the red zone. So they play at a fast pace. So you're seeing his attempt numbers are pretty high. His touchdown percentage right now is 7.1%, which is significantly higher than his career average. So he's really outperforming in touchdown percentage, but he has an extra weapon in AJ Green. He's got an extra weapon in Rondale Moore, and Christian Kirk is starting to break out a little bit, plus DeAndre Hopkins. So he has the weapons to have a high touchdown percentage that might not come down as much as you would expect based on his career percentages. His completion percentage is also 72% right now. Just absolutely dealing. His career average is 67%. So he is above average in that on his career average, but just an absolute freak right now. What are you seeing out of Kyler Murray?
No, the Cardinals are rolling. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's an MVP candidate. He's been fantastic. I honestly, based on how well he's played this year, and that just goes to show how fantasy shakes out, but it's crazy that he's tied with Jalen Hurts for the same amount of fantasy points. Pretty much. That's wild to me. But
yes,
that just goes to show you how fantasy works.
Yeah.
And what's regression for Murray here is like he's running a 3.1 yards per carry. Kyler Murray is more than capable of taking his 37 carries for more than that. So I think there's a world we start seeing more explosive plays from Murray on the ground. I think that's very possible. That's what he's done his entire career.
That's the thing about Murray is more likely. So Murray, Brady, and Mahomes are outperforming their career averages, right? Murray has another out in terms of if he starts regressing back to his career average, he's got the rushing aspect of his game to help kind of push that floor back up. So that's why Murray is the most likely out of these three, I think, to finish as a QB1 overall. Maybe Mahomes because he is rushing a little bit more, but Brady's not adding that rushing. He's a little bit more of a fragile prospect here. Out of these three, Tom Brady is the most likely to fall out of the top five just because he doesn't have that rushing floor. And I think that's tough for people to understand.
Yep. And we can easily transition Murray into Jalen Hurts here on the note of that. So Jalen Hurts is someone that we knew was going to be good for fantasy. I don't think anyone really people call for Jalen Hurts to be a top 5 option. And I wasn't one of those people. I thought he'd do enough to get by, but it shows how important rushing yards is for a quarterback. He's taken 53. Wait, I'm looking at this right. Yeah, 53 carries for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. Those are Sam Darnold numbers.
Yeah, Sam Darnold numbers.
But
the touchdown is very much the same, but Jalen Hurts is actually running and making
way more efficiently.
And being efficient with his carries.
Yeah, and listen, Hurts has not looked good as a passer, and I didn't expect him to. Like, this goes to show that he could have been the QB1 if he was actually good as a passer, but he has not played well. That's not going to change. I don't think he's that good, but he will run. And we saw it last week. He had like 7 fantasy points, not even in the first half, and then he came out and then dropped another 20 in the second. It's going to happen through garbage time. He's going to do what he wants. They don't have enough options for him not to be a rushing quarterback.
That's a scrappy team. The Eagles are the best way I can describe them is they're just scrappy. You know what I mean? Like, they won't surprise anybody if they went in and like beat a team like the other night when they played Tampa Bay. Like, they got kind of crushed in that game, but it wouldn't have surprised anybody if they just like out of nowhere like just beat Tampa Bay. So again, you're not going to see Hurts kind of light it up in the passing column with 3.8% touchdown percentage. It was even lower last year. He's just not an accurate quarterback. He's not seeing the field all that well, which a young QB like will struggle in that regard. But I hope they keep giving him a chance, man. I think he could be electric if he could kind of improve a little bit, make a Josh Allen type leap. Like, we're talking about a really good quarterback.
I really don't think he gets the chance.
That's a shame, man. Because it seems like he's a really good guy too.
Listen, I have nothing against Jalen Hurts the person. I just don't think he's that good of a passer. I don't think he's going to become that. And they have 2 high first-round picks. They have 2 first-round picks, period. They have all the reason in the world to make a move up and select their guy.
Dude,
new head coach as well. New head coach.
We'll take him.
We did not
trade him. Trade him to the Steelers. Trade him to the Steelers.
No. We won't.
We'll take him.
We won't.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. All right. So let's this is are you ready for a hot one?
Oh, my MVP of the year?
Stafford. Screaming regression candidate. Screaming.
Oh, no, not on the slightest.
Let's talk about it.
Go.
So the one thing is the Rams are very pass heavy in the red zone. Very much above average in pass rate over expectation in the 20-yard line and in. So he is getting a lot of opportunities to throw touchdown, but he has an 8.0% touchdown percentage. Matt Stafford is very good. His career touchdown percentage is 4.6%. He is doubling his touchdown percentage. His career numbers were mostly with some pretty bad Detroit teams, with uninspiring coaches, and everything was acting against him. One could argue that he has the complete 180 opposite, like best environment you could hope for his skill set. So an increase in touchdown percentage is expected, but doubling it, that's a little much. That's a little much. So I think you see these numbers come down a little bit.
See, now I'm gonna poke some holes in that, in the sense that every year there is 1 to 2 quarterbacks that explode on the touchdown numbers, and those are MVP type quarterbacks. I think Matt Stafford is that guy. If you look at Jared Goff's best season in 2018, when he threw the rock 561 times, that's going to be less than what Matt Stafford's doing. So Jared Goff threw for 32 touchdowns. Jared Goff threw for 32 touchdowns. Matt Stafford is
16 touchdowns already. Wow.
He is at 16 already. And Matt Stafford is an infinitely better player than Jared Goff. So it is not inexplicable to me that Matt Stafford at a 12-game pace can do what Jared Goff does in a 16. So I think it's very possible that we see a 45 touchdown season out of Matt Stafford. That would be a borderline MVP, if not the MVP. And that's in his realm of outcomes. He's doing that. He looks good when he does it. He's had one down game in this real, and not even, because he gets it done through the air with the amount of attempts. This is the type of stat line, and the argument you made is exactly there for the postseason, for the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
When we look back at this and say, okay, it's not going to happen again, but I think it's happening this time right now.
Yeah, the teams haven't seemed to really figure out how to stop them.
And they're not going to get it done on the ground.
Sometimes you don't really see that until, they have an off season to kind of dissect what McVay was doing with Stafford. You know what
And,
I mean?
let me make this argument real quick because we got to keep moving. But Matt Stafford, it just joined this team. Imagine if Matt Stafford makes a click like Tom Brady made in his year with Bruce Arians.
Yeah.
Imagine if he starts understanding this offense a little bit more in Week 10 and he hits a whole new level. That's entirely possible. That's possible, man.
Yeah, you talked me back into Stafford. I hope you're right. I have
Oh,
a
yeah.
preseason. I have a preseason MVP bet on him that I got at crazy.
I've
odds.
called that. Matt Stafford's been my MVP pick.
I have the receipts for that one. So sometimes it's good to it's good to victory lap in what is it? October. Dak is kind of doing exactly what we would expect on the volume. The disappointing thing about Dak is that the volume is less than we thought it was going to be. They're a pretty run heavy team right now because it's working. And everybody anchored their preseason takes that Dallas was going to pass the heck out of the ball into the Tampa Bay game. And what we've seen is that nobody runs on Tampa Bay. So because we have what we overweight the first thing we see in the season, literally the first thing we see, we think, no, the Cowboys are supposed to be pass heavy. That's just not the identity of the Cowboys this season. It could change, but I don't see why, because they have two really good running backs in Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott.
They wanted to get Tony Pollard involved, and they've done it. It's as simple as that. They wanted to make that change, and Tony Pollard's the difference. He wasn't involved as much last year. He's involved this year, and they've lost 10 attempts as a result.
Yeah. So what we're hoping is that I don't know, maybe that defense is also a lot better with Trayvon Diggs just intercepting everything. But we saw what could happen when the defense maybe gets a little tired in that wild ending to their game. What was going on there? The Patriots-Dallas game.
Well, Trayvon Diggs got an interception and then he got toasted, but also the safety wasn't helping on that infamous play that everyone's calling him out for. Trayvon Diggs is very similar to Marcus Peters, where he's going to make plays, he's going to get burnt, but making plays as a cornerback is infinitely more valuable than getting burnt.
Yeah, a lot of coaches actually take that mindset. Like they'd rather have 3 superstars than like 10 average guys. You know what I mean? Like if the rest of your defense is trash, like you need 1 or 2 guys like that can just make a play. And your defense could be terrible, but if it makes a play, like that matters way more than to coaches than just being a guy out there.
And for the Cowboys, a final note. They are entering their bye, which is why we're hopeful that Dak Prescott can get his calf right. But Mike Gallup also becomes a IR candidate to return. We've been missing Mike Gallup for a few weeks now. He is eligible to return in Week 8. He could start practicing Week 8. McCarthy is reportedly hopeful that he's back there. And Mike Gallup, while he might not be a stellar fantasy option, we could see he was very involved early on. He's a good player. At the very least, he's going to help Dak. Like Cedric Wilson, while he's been playing a little bit better than people might have hoped or expected, Michael Gallup is a very talented player they get back.
Yeah. So I guess if you're kind of waiting on Dak to start really getting into like elite QB territory, like top 3, like you need them to pass it more. And there could be some reasons why, maybe schedule, maybe coming out of the bye, they kind of change their identity a little bit. But if you're wondering why Josh Allen is so low at QB9, he's played 1 less game. So don't worry, he's crushing. We already talked about Sam Darnold, but you want to take a quick look at running backs? You think we can squeeze that in, or do you want to save that for next week?
It is getting close to game time in terms of we got Sunday Night Football coming up. I don't know if we'll be able to do running backs justice.
All right, let's save that for next week. We'll definitely take a look at running backs next week. But can we talk about, I think we can dive into this game a little bit more. Can we talk about how important this game is to our preseason takes?
What were our preseason takes?
Basically, the market in general valuing Stephon Diggs as an elite wide receiver 1 overall prospect. Like Stephon Diggs was entering that elite tier, and we have not seen that from him this year. He has not kept pace with Tyreek Hill. He has not kept pace with Devontae Adams. like we thought that he could in this new team environment after an offseason where he could actually get chemistry with Josh Allen. What is going on? Why are we throwing the ball to Emmanuel Sanders? He's 900 years old.
Listen, they're winning the game. I don't know what's going on here. What's happening really is the no-show that the Buffalo offense was outside of Diggs last year has not happened. Cole Beasley is still getting his normal Cole Beasley workload that isn't Buffalo related. Dawson Knox is stepping up in the touchdown department. Those are removing Diggs's huge games, and now they're just meh. Now they're just wide receiver 3 flexes. And while Gabriel Davis hasn't made that step, Emmanuel Sanders is back to the limelight. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure what time machine he got in, but all of a sudden, Josh Allen loves targeting stuff on Diggs. But this is you're right. This is listen. I give my minute rant. I'm going to get the timer going. Let's get this thing on. Stopwatch go. 1 minute. Okay. Stephon Diggs, like you just said, this is the week. This has to happen this week. This is the blow up. This is my superstar captain DFS play. He's going against Tennessee, which has been a travesty as a defense. They ranked 25th in pass DVOA on the season. They've been exposed all year. And the good thing for Diggs is that the Titans can put up a fight this week. They're a bit healthy now. They haven't had A.J. Brown and Julio Jones at full health. They're both on the field. Derrick Henry's still Derrick Henry. And this is a very good opportunity for this to be a good shootout. I don't think that Derrick Henry's going to run as well as he normally wants to, but I do think that Diggs is going to have a huge day with huge volume and a touchdown to boot. So I think he's a great play, and I also am calling for a bit of a bounce back for Julio. This has been really
Julio.
We
don't need
people
Julio.
Forgot about Julio. People don't care about Julio.
We need A.J. Brown way more than we need Julio. Julio was discounted. A.J. Brown was a second-round pick, and it's basically sinking every beautiful zero RB team I have.
I can't give you what you want. I don't throw the ball. If I was Ryan Tannehill, I'd simply make everyone great.
But you're in charge of the rant, which we'll say you're probably 500 on rant, guys. That's solid. That puts you in the Hall of Fame if this is baseball. Listen,
good thing it's not baseball. But A.J. Brown, I'm not worried about the illness. I'm not that whole thing seems like it was just a little scared that Mike Vrabel
just a little tummy ache. Just a little tummy ache.
I think Mike Vrabel just did it to try to be clever. But
yeah,
I think Julio Jones. I think I don't know if Tre'Davious White follows this game. I don't think he will. I think he'll just take whatever big receivers on one side, and one of them is going to catch a long touchdown because this Buffalo defense is beatable. The defensive front, it's going to be a fun game. I really think this is going to be a good shootout. I think the Titans are going to be a better team on offense than they have been. I think they're finally equipped with their full offense. I think the Bills are a very good team that are potentially the best team in the AFC. And I think we're going to have a lot of fantasy producers all around. What's interesting is, like, I could say that Julio Jones is going to have a bounce back. I think Julio Jones will have a bounce back. But I think everyone in this game is playable.
Okay.
I think every single player of any relevance I would line out there pretty confidently.
Okay. That's good because, again, both of these teams have kind of been like, obviously, Derrick Henry, absolute hop in the rocket ship, we're going to Mars explosion this season, which I don't think slows down. A little sneak peek for what we're going to talk about next week is we'll take a look at those running backs. But Josh Allen, Diggs, AJB, run it back for 30. Everybody's happy. Everybody's satisfied. It was a lot of fun last week. I wasn't on the wrong side of this. This is why. Just having a team just absolutely go nuts on a Monday and completely flip some like 1% matchups, you know? So let's hope for that. We'll see you next week where we dive into – you want to talk about that?
Quickly a send-off. Okay. I started this week with a 99% chance of winning in my Dynasty League. Then Nick Chubb went down. Then Terry McLaurin got a little hamstring scare. Then Mike Williams got whatever scare. So all of a sudden, that 98% thing flipped to 8. I was an 8% underdog. And then CeeDee Lamb and Najee Harris clawed me back into this game. And I need Josh Allen to drop 17 tonight.
Imagine having a dynasty team with CeeDee Lamb and Najee Harris. That's awesome. That is an awesome core.
My team is 5-0. First place, most points for, averaging like 150 a week. I'm going against the 0-5 team of a kid that I can say on this podcast, is a complete annoying bleep. And it's just
okay.
he's annoying as heck. So I need to win this game. He's 0-5.
Yeah.
It's if I lose to him, it's game over for me. It's
Okay.
I retire everything I had.
Oh my gosh. All right.
So
Well, good
17
luck.
points. 17
Definitely,
points for Josh Allen.
we'll definitely have to check in. I'll be tracking Josh Allen's points very carefully. But yeah, let's send this off. Next week we'll talk running backs and who belongs in the top 12 and who may see some regression. I thought this was a good little exercise, but yeah, you can find us at forfantasysakeqc.com. We're writing a waiver wire column coming tomorrow, and you can see a lot of other great content there. You can find me on Twitter at run_the_Sims, and you can find my buddy Michael here at Michael__Sicoli. Good luck out there, folks. Go win all the money. Later.
And everyone go to Run the Sims and congratulate this man on being an engaged man. I will be very disappointed if you don't. God. Okay. Enjoy Monday Night Football. Let's go.
All right. Later, guys.